Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to another Cubase Tips live stream. A couple of days ago we did a live stream where I was talking to you guys about how you can create track presets for different instruments that you've got loaded up, and it just makes it easier for when you're building your sessions. You can literally go to your media tab here and go to your user presets, track presets, and then you can literally drag and drop in and recall stuff and build your sessions. But what I want to do today is go into a little bit more detail with the media bay and how you can use it when you're setting this up. Now you can see here that I've got these different tabs, and they're showing the companies and they're also showing the products. But inside of those, it worked better on this one. Inside of those, you can also see things like, trombones. If I wanted to find my Cinebrass trombones or trumpets, and I can select them, and I've got these tracks here which are showing up, and then I can just drag and drop them in to build my session. Now, when you're creating the track preset, let me just load something up here. One thing I didn't show you guys, which I should have showed you guys in the other videos, is this. When you go to save your track preset, down here at the bottom you've got some values, okay? And these determine, you can add these values in, and these will determine how it shows up in the media bay. So obviously, if this is a brass instrument, then you can obviously tell it it's a brass instrument. And then you've got things like the character. So if it's got a certain sound, if it's warm, if it's cold, if it's glassy sounding, then you can use these attributes here to also add that information in. And you've also got your style of what kind of style. Well, obviously self-explanatory what kind of style it is. So I would put classical, with it being a brass instrument as such. And then you've got your subcategories. So you've got all these different ones you can go through, if it's a complete section, or if it's just like trombones or trumpets or whatever. So with this one, I can see it's a cymbassu and a bass trombone, so I'd probably put that under section for that. So when you go to type in your name for this, bear in mind when you do type a name in, it's not going to come up with what you've actually got it as the track name, okay? So what I like to do is I like to actually save these as the actual patch name. But one tip I would advise doing is, if you navigate to the folder in which you save these things in, what I would do, just because of how the naming works, you do have patches that share similar names, is I would create separate subfolders, okay? So brass, percussion strings, etc., and then I'd also create the folders inside of that for your products that you're creating these for, just so it doesn't clash with any naming, and it just makes the hierarchy nice and neat, and you're not going to run into any trouble. So another thing you can do if you want to edit these, and you've put in the values wrong or incorrectly, what you can do is, if you go to your media bay by pressing F5, you can see here everything's showing up, and on this right hand pane, the attribute inspector, it's quite handy, because you can do a lot of batch work, and you can batch rename not rename the actual patches, but you can sort out the attributes by selecting them all. So if I wanted to change this from being called a Cinebrass core, and I wanted to change it to Cinebrass Pro, I could just go up here and do it. Now, how I'm working this when it comes to saving the patches and the trees of information, if you go to your cogs, what I'm actually doing is, if you press on the gear icon here, I'm using the family name tab, and then if you scroll further down here, you've also got the company under staff, okay? And then obviously you've got your musical stuff like your categories and character and all that kind of thing. and then the track template, I've also got this enabled, the instrument as well. So what this does is it gives you these options here, and obviously the family tree name is what I use to call the product. So if it's Cinebrass or whatever it is I'm using, and then obviously the company, Cine Samples. So when I select those in the view tab here, to bring this up, you just click this little pane, and I use from the drop down menu staff, company, and then over here file name and media, sorry, and then family name, and then that gives you this view, and then the last one subcategory. It just makes it a little bit easier for when you're navigating stuff, because if you've got a load of patches loaded like this, it can be a bit confusing trying to navigate to something that you want to use. So that's how I go about doing it, and it makes it nice and easy, and it works across, you know, your basics, your single instrument track save preset setting things, and also your multis as well. And so it's just nice and simple way to work. Now what I want to do is I want to show you some key commands which are really useful, which you need to set up inside of Cubase as well. So let's just quickly build a template of such. So I'm just going to drag these in here. Now these key commands I'm going to show you, they're really big time savers, and it saves you a lot of clicking and a lot of opening the mixer up and messing around. So I'm just going to load a few different things in here, just to show you guys what it is we're going to be doing. Another handy thing as well when you're using these track presets and setting it up is you can save different versions of your settings. So if you wanted to load up all your string patches, let's say for CS2 or whatever library you're using, you can do a dry version and then save that, and you can recall it, or you can do a normal one where you're using the normal microphones and whatnot. So it's a very good way to work. So I'm just going to load all this stuff in, and you can see how easy and quick you can start building templates using this method. But when you are, like I say, working on big sessions, what can be annoying is when you've got lots of patches loaded up, especially if you're using a big template, and a lot of the patches you're not actually using, and it kind of takes up space. And it can be a little bit confusing when you're trying to sort of navigate to things that have got information on. So what I'm just going to do here, I'm just going to add a couple of MIDI tracks, just random ones, just to give us sort of like something to go off. So let's say you're working on your session, and here you've got your MIDI info and it's playing whatever it is it's playing, but you've got a lot of patches loaded up. How do you sort of hide everything that that you're not using? Well, you can actually easily do it in Cubase, and I've already got this set up. So, I did have it set up. In fact, I unset it for this stream, so I'll show you. So a couple of important tools to take note of. Actually, no, I'll talk about that after. I want to show you these key commands first, and I'll talk about what I want to show you after. So if you go to File and then go to Key Commands, inside of here you've got a lot of things for really taking advantage of Cubase's features and allowing you to navigate your sessions quite easily. So if we scroll down to channel and track visibility and click on that tree, what you'll see in here is a bunch of different options. Okay, now the first thing I've done is I've got this one, show all channels / tracks. Okay, and I've set that to control and that key next to 1 on the left. I don't really know what that key's called, but I've got it set to that. And then what I've done as well is I've got show channels / tracks with data. Now these two key commands are very, very useful. So if I'm working on a session like, let's say here, and I want to hide all the stuff that hasn't got any MIDI data on, I can I can literally, you need to make sure you clicked off that on Media Bay, it doesn't like it for some reason. I can literally click that key next to number 1, and all the stuff that's actually got MIDI data on gets hidden. Okay, sorry, it hasn't got MIDI data on gets hidden. So you can really, concentrate on what you're working on, especially if you've got like 100, 200, 300 different things loaded up and you're not using them all. So that's a very good key command to set up. It just saves you a lot of time and it makes your sessions a lot easier to work with. Now, the other thing I want to show you guys in terms of visibility is you can actually set up visibility groups inside of Cubase, meaning that let's say you just want to look at your strings. Normally what most people would do is they'd go to visibility and they'd turn it off, or if they've got it in a group folder, they'd just turn off the group folder. There is a lot quicker way to do this, and it's using configurations. So if you go to right click on here and just make sure, is it right click? Let me just check. Arrange transport automation. If you just right click on the grey area and just make sure you've got track and visibility configuration set, and then what this will allow us to do is to select things. So let's say I'm going to select all these brass instruments here. Actually, no. Let me just. It'd be easier if I set these in folders actually, just to show you this. So let me just quickly put these in some folders. I should have done this beforehand, really. You can actually assign folders to a key cut as well. I'll show you a really cool one in a bit. So okay, let me just turn these off. Alright, so if I select these and then go to configurations, add configuration, and I call this brass, and then I can do the same for violins or strings even. And let's do the same for woodwinds here. Let's add a configuration for woodwinds. And then let's add a configuration for percussion. Once you've added these in, what I'd advise doing is going to your key commands. And what you need to set up is visibility configurations. And then you need to assign these to whatever key cut you want. I've got it as control, and then using the numpad to switch through the different visibility configurations. You can have up to 8, and then what this will let you do once you've got it set is if I press control and 1, I shouldn't have had the folders shrunk when I did that, but yeah, you get the idea. You can use, if you set it up right, you can do this, and you can just switch through your different sections. Okay, so if I just wanted to look at strings, I can just look at my strings and it'll close everything else. If I just want to look at brass, if I want to look at strings, if I want to look at, you get the idea. So it's an easy way of doing things. And then if I just want to show the only the stuff that's got MIDI data on, I can hit my other key that I've got set. And then if I want to show everything again, then I've got another key cut for it. So it's a really good way of navigating through your mixes and navigating through your sessions. It just makes life a lot easier. Now, another really handy shortcut I really want to show you guys. A powerful feature with Cubase and the key commands is you can come up with macro controls that do predefined things depending on what you tell the macro to do. So let me just show you. So if you click on show macros at the bottom, it'll show you some pre-made macros. A really handy one actually, which is already set up for you, is select tracks to new folder, add to group channel. So when you're building a template, what you normally find you end up doing is you end up sending all of, say, I don't know, the brass section to its own group output. And you also want to have it in a folder as well, all these channels. So a really quick way to do it is using that macro. So what you would do is obviously assign it to a key. I've already got mine set to Shift and delete. I don't remember setting it to that, but yeah. So yeah, you set this to whatever key binding you want, and you can also add stuff to it as well. So when you hit that key binding, what it's going to do is going to move all them to a folder, and then it's going to open up a group channel. And you can also, if you want to, add a macro to this, so it opens up an effects send as well. So just by hitting your key shortcut, it's going to do all those things in one go. So it saves you clicking around in the mixer and doing all those different things. So just see if I've still got this set up. So yeah, I hit that key binding I've got it set to, and you can see it's taking all these tracks and now it's creating a group output. Now I've got the choice of either having the group channel being inside the folder or outside the folder. I just leave it to create inside the folder, and then I can name the group brass. And you can see down here it's added all those to a folder, and now it's created a separate output as well, which is really handy. Let me just bring up my mixer so you can see there it's created an output for that group. So it's a really quick way of routing things. I'm going to add a macro to that as well. Let's just move these out of a folder. Okay, so key commands. Now I've got to find where it is, so you might have to bear with me here because there's a lot of different trees to go through here. So macros, that one. Now how this works when you add in a macro is you literally find it on here and you click on it, and then you just go add macro and it will add it to that. Now I've got to remember what this is under. It's under, I think it's under mixer. I can't quite remember. Audio, arranger, analyzer, edit, export, hit points, inspector, macro. That's the folder we're already in. Mix console, mixer. Okay. Add that in there. Okay. So what this should do now is when I use this macro, it should let me put these in a folder, add a group channel to these tracks, and then also add an effects channel as well. So let's add the group. So yeah, there you go. So just like that, you've just saved yourself so much time. So not only has it sent all these to a group channel, but it's also sent them to a reverb send as well inside of Cubase. So let's just hide these here, just so I can show you guys. And there you go, you can see it's already set things up nicely. So how it's routing it is that this is going to the group channel, and then it's sending the group channel to its own dedicated reverb, and that's how it works. Okay, so if you wanted to do it with individual reverb, you probably could set it up with macros. Just trying to think how you best go about that. Something to toy around with, but you can see the power of key commands inside of Cubase quite easily, and there's a lot of different things here that you can't even access through normal menus as well. So it's always worth taking a look and just seeing what some of these tools actually do. I mean, for example, there's one on here that you can't really do for a menu. It doesn't do anything specifically amazing, but it's just cool. Let me try and find it on here. It's to do with the colouring. You can actually, in fact, I'll just tell you what it is. So if you've got a waveform in here, there's actually a key command that changes the waveform. So it's got sort of like a spectrogram slightly behind it with the colouring, just so you can see where there is sound and where there isn't, which is kind of handy if you want to edit things. But yeah, so pretty basic things really, guys, that are really powerful tools inside of Cubase. I mean, just being able to hide all the tracks with MIDI data, without MIDI data on, is a bonus, and then being able to set up your different visual things here is really handy. And then, you know, being able to quickly assign everything to a group, into a folder, to a group, and then have that group sent to an effects chain as well. It's really simple to set up, and it's going to save you a lot of time. So it's worth taking a look at and worth investing time in. I mean, I know it's going to take a long time to set up, you know, your libraries the way you want to, but if you do it the first time round, just spend a day or two just setting everything up, then it's going to save you so much time in the long run, and you'll be able to crack on and work with your sessions and not really get bogged down by things in the workflow which are just distracting you from actually getting on with what you want to do. So there we go. Bit of a different stream today. Hopefully you guys have found this all quite useful. I know I find it useful on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. I've got some more videos coming up next week. And in fact, what's the date next week? Oh, next week as well, on Thursday, I'll be announcing the winner for the 1K giveaway as well. So be sure to enter if you haven't entered already. There is a video up showing you what's up for grabs. Little bit annoyed about it, to be honest, though, because when I bought the sample library, I bought it at the normal price. And then 2 days later, they have a 40% off sale. So it looks really bad. It looks like I've bought something dead cheap, but I haven't. But there we go. Anyway, rant over. Cheers, Charles. Glad you found the tips helpful. And thanks for watching as well. So I'll see you guys all again soon. Be sure to take care of yourselves. Don't get into too much trouble. Ta-ra.